presented some new technology dealing with film and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. As part of our budget this year, and we did really well on our budget, and we really appreciate the board and the CAO for standing behind us on our request. And what we tried to do, we tried to be really fiscally responsible in the things that we asked for, and we tried to ask for different things in technology that will actually save us money in the long run, not cost the county in the long run. And just things as simple as moving from hard storage of our data, which was required by the last administration on these servers that they had to purchase, to modernizing our department. And it may surprise you that we were not allowed to store our stuff on the cloud by the last administration, and now we are. So that'll be a tremendous amount of savings financially for the county, with us storing our data information that way, and that's because there's so much data that we gather on our body cameras and those type of things that we need to store and is required by law to release. So that will really help us out. And part of that program that we got approved yesterday was the body cameras and our new tasers. The tasers that we had, which help us use less lethal level of force on suspects that are combative. They're just obsolete. They're not even supported by that company anymore. So when they break, we can't fix them.
That was shocking when you said that they've been there so long that you can't update them, you can't do anything with them.
Right. So the new ones we're going to tie in with our cameras, and the system all works together to gather the information of when they're deployed. If they're deployed, if you pull the taser out of its holster, it automatically starts the camera if you haven't had time to reach up and hit that button. And all these things are to make sure that we're very transparent with the public, to let them know exactly what we're doing. And as I've always said, if we make a mistake, we're going to own up to it and apologize and do what's right and try and do better the next time and learn from it. But if we've done the right thing, we want to be able to show that too to the public and let them know, yes, sometimes bad things happen, but we always try and make sure that we're doing the right thing and that we can justify what we do and show the public that we're doing our best out there.
And then there's the data from the drones too. I think in the presentation, one of you mentioned yesterday that for 2 minutes of camera footage, it was taking people like 2 hours because you have to sort through and not show other people that aren't involved. And
yeah, it was actually worse than that. It's 11 hours for that 2 minutes.
Wow.
It took one of our staff to redact the information that shouldn't be shown. And even then, after the 11 hours, it was for a court case, and the judge had been very patient with us, and he finally said, hey, look, we can't wait. We can't hold up this court case any longer. Please just bring me the video. I'll watch it in camera, and then I'll decide what can be shown and can't be shown. So even after 11 hours, we weren't able to get everything redacted. But with this new software from Axon, we'll be able to do it very quickly. With artificial intelligence, we'll be able to put in certain commands, and it'll go in there and block all the stuff that needs to get blocked. So
that's amazing.
Think of the cost of 11 hours of an employee sitting there doing 2 minutes of video when we have hundreds of hours of video every day.
Well, and you're going to be getting more and more with drones and other capability.
Absolutely.
So it just makes sense. It's going to be so much more fiscally prudent in the long run.
And that's another thing another one of the things we got up and running are our drones. We have about 7 drones now in our department. I don't know the exact number. It may be a little more than that. And we have some really small ones that are great, and then we have some really big ones that have infrared and all different types of stuff on it. So that's a huge tool to help us keep our officers safe, keep our citizens safe, find bad guys when they run from us, or missing persons or missing children. When we get those calls, we can come into the area, get a drone up in the air, and they can cover so much more area, so much more quickly, which is really key to getting somebody back safely.
Awesome. And then are you still using canines?
Absolutely. Our canine unit is flourishing. We've had a couple high-profile deployments recently where they've really protected our officers and our citizens. And we've had one of our canine officers was slightly injured recently with a bad cut on the leg. But good doctors like you put them back together for us, and you know how quickly those dogs bounce back. And
they're amazing. They're tough.
Yeah, they absolutely are. So yeah, they're doing an amazing job, and it's always a great tool. And I always found, I got to do that for 12 years, and our favorite part of it was going out and interacting with the public and doing our demos and showing what our dogs can do and how friendly they are, and that they only do their job when they're told to. That's the fun part of canine.
And it's really amazing too, because they can access places that officers might not be able to access, and they can get there fast, which
Absolutely.
they're phenomenal.
Yeah, a couple times lately they've located subjects either under a house or up in an attic, and it's very dangerous. Having been a SWAT operator in the past as well as a canine, when you pop that hood off the attic space, the first thing that has to go up is your head. Mm-hmm. So if you got a bad guy up there with a gun or something like that, it's really nice to have a canine on scene that we can put on their ballistic vest, and we can shove them up in that hole real quick, and make sure that we keep our officers safe and they get to go home to their families at night.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because people think about you providing safety for the public, and they don't really think about the concern for the safety for the officers, but that's a big concern, especially when your numbers are low.
Absolutely. Out on patrol right now, before I just made these moves, we had 34 guys on one day off sequence and 32 guys on another day off sequence, and that's for 365 days, 7 days a week, or 24 hours a day. And so that's really tough, because you got a lot of guys rolling solo, and it's not getting any safer out there. And we want to make sure that our officers stay safe, because we can't help you if we don't get there. And so we're making sure that we made some changes, and I know they were rather drastic, but I had met with the Board of Supervisors over the past few months as a group and then individually one-on-one, and explained to them that our numbers were dropping so badly, and they're just leaving for other local agencies here, that we really needed to do something, or I was going to have to start shutting down some of our other things that we do, like the community car program, and pull some people from Mountain House, and pull people from courts to make sure that we have the bodies we need to stay safe on the streets. So that's what we've had to do.
And then what about rifles? You've also changed something.
We have our assault rifles that we've always had in the cars, but now at our large events, because the things that have happened, and just here locally in California and across our nation, with active shooters, you're going to see our guys with their rifles with them, slung across their chest at all our special events that we provide security at, to make sure that they're there and able to respond immediately. Just like the officers did a great job, and I think it was Dayton, where they had the suspect down within 30 seconds of the call, so that way they don't have to run back to their cars, get their rifles, and they're prepared to protect our citizens. So we want to strike a balancing act where we don't make the citizens feel uncomfortable about us being around. But I think we found at this first event that we did out at Lincoln Center Live that it was very positive. People were very happy that we were there, and they were very happy that we were ready to protect them. And we still want to be the approachable, and we still want kids to come up to us and get engaged with the public. So we're trying to find that balancing act of safety and yet still being able to interact with the public.
Awesome. And the public people might not realize that you do go out to a lot of events. Do you want to talk about some of the things besides Lincoln Center Live that you might go to? Yeah,
we go to all kinds of stuff. We get contracts, like there's rodeos and bullfights up in Thornton, and we're starting to get in talks with the Asparagus Festival for supplying the security there. So any of these groups, another thing that I've initiated again is our horse posse. So we're going to start having our mounted horse posses at a lot of these. They're just starting to go through the training.
Yay.
And that's a great tool to have out there. Again, the public loves the horses. And I've been riding one in a parade every now and then, and they find a horse that's smarter than me, and so he doesn't buck me off and tell me how to ride this thing. But I really enjoy it. I love doing that. I love being out there. And so we'll see those at the special event too, because it's nice. They sit up real high. They can see over the crowd, and so they can really identify problems before they get out of hand.
And you can get somewhere quickly, too.
Absolutely.
Another tool in your belt that you
Yeah.
can use depending on the situation.
Yeah, everybody gets out of the way of a horse as it's coming.
Awesome. Excellent. So let's talk about like your future goals. What would you like to see happen, and how can we bring more people to be sheriffs in our community?
Well, the big thing right now, our focus is on recruiting and retaining the officers that we need right now. So we're really focusing on going out, and we have a good recruitment team now trying to show the benefits of coming and working at our department as opposed to other departments. Now, clearly, that is not pay and benefits at this time. But we're trying to show them the benefit of working at a sheriff's department that has an administration that supports their staff and really cares about it and has that family atmosphere that we have. So we're trying to attract as many people as we can. In our corrections side, we're looking at lowering the age of becoming a correctional officer to 18. That's becoming the industry standard. So it would be great for somebody coming fresh out of high school who's thinking, hey, maybe I don't want to go to college, or I'd like to take a little time off, and instead of going down and getting a job at the mall or someplace else like I did and you did, I'm sure, to step into a career like corrections where you can make really good money, have really good benefits, and learn some really valuable tools to help you grow and mature. And so if you choose not to keep that as a long-time career, then you have other tools in your toolbox that you can show people that what you've learned. So we're going to start that pretty soon, where we start hiring 18-year-olds and get them into our family. And then once you turn 21, if you so desire, then you're already part of our team. It's an easy transition to get you to the academy and get you out on the street. So something to look for coming up fairly soon for young men and women out there that are looking for a career instead of just a job.
And what kind of training is involved with joining corrections?
It's really neat because we actually run a correctional academy right there in French Camp at our station there. So they would have to go through the background and all that type of stuff, all the different types of testing before they get hired. So I would recommend folks thinking about that to, I always make a joke about this, but start going through your social media, and even if it's not our job, it's any job, so you might want to start clearing some of that stuff out, because every employer, not just us, now goes through your social media to see what's on there. And if there's some inappropriate stuff on there that you may not want an employer to see, first of all, I would recommend not putting it on there in the first place, not doing that type of activity. But if you have made some mistakes in the past and it's on there, then make sure you go through there and maybe clean that out. I always try and tell my kids that, hey, once you put it on there, it's there forever. Somebody can find it possibly. So it's not just you're sending it to your friends. So. But you do all the testing, and once you're in there, then you go through, and it's an extensive learning all our policy and laws that have to do and with working in corrections. There's a lot of physical stuff, so you got to get prepared ahead of time. You can't walk into the academy and think you're going to get in shape once you get there. You really have to get yourself in shape ahead of time. I see our academies out there doing all kinds of physical workouts that I know this body couldn't do anymore. But they have a lot of fun. They come back and they're covered in mud, but they're always laughing and high-fiving each other and joking around. Although it's very extensive work, once you get through, the pride that you have getting through an academy like that, you'll carry with you forever, because very few people get a chance to do that. So
it also sounds like it's very team building.
It is, and that's what I really encourage, is that, hey, the moment you walk in the door at our place, we're a family and we're a team. So if you struggle with anything, if you struggle on the book side of it, or you have trouble, writing reports or whatever, on the physical side of it, getting over a wall or something like that, we are a team. We work together. We help each other. We do whatever it takes to make sure, if you're willing to put the time in, we're willing to put the time in to help you and make sure you get through it.
Awesome. And people think of sheriffs as county. Let's talk about the areas in the county that you actually serve and cover.
Right. A lot of people are confused about, what's the difference between a police officer and a sheriff's deputy. And there's really, as far as enforcement things, there's no difference. We all have the same responsibility for enforcing the laws of the California and our country. It just comes down to jurisdiction. So within the city limits, the police officers patrol their cities, and then we patrol all the unincorporated areas, all the areas of the county. Now here in Stockton, it's really unique because we have so many fingers of the county that come into our city areas here, like all around Lincoln Center and the Country Club area, and out in East Stockton and down in South Stockton, so up around Lodi. So sometimes it's hard to know where the city stops and the county ends. Most of the time that involves sidewalks, but not always. So we patrol all those unincorporated areas. So we go from the mountains heading over towards the Bay Area to the mountains up by Sonora and all that, pass right up to Oakdale on that side, all the way down to like Highway 132 down that way towards Stanislaus County.
That's a huge area.
Yeah, and back up towards Galt. We got a little piece of Galt too. So it's a big county.
And so now with fewer officers and concern with how big the area is and response time, what are some things that you've put into place to try and help make response time quick?
Yeah, what we've done is, as I mentioned, we've had to suspend our community car program, which is one of our favorite programs because we get to have officers assigned to specific areas that they work all the time, and they get to really know the citizens and the business owners there and participate in the schools, all in those areas. We've had to suspend those and bring those officers back just to work regular patrol. We try and get those officers assigned to beats that incorporate those areas, so they're still kind of in the areas there. So that was difficult. Mountain House is not a city. It's a community district type thing where they have not incorporated into a city yet. So, but they have gotten together a board, and they collect fees from the people that live there, and have hired 7 of our officers to work there. They only have a contract that mandated 2 of the officers be there. So we've pulled back 5 officers from there, which was very concerning to them, as I understand.
They presented yesterday.
Yeah, but what we did to kind of counterbalance that is with the new officers that we're getting on the street, the 8 car is the name of the beat that encompasses Mountain House, is basically kind of using Mountain House as its base of operation. So as they come out, the day shift car, the early day shift, late day, swing shift car, and graveyard car, as they come out, they head to Mountain House, and Mountain House has a little police station there for us, or a little area for us. And they use that as their base of operation, so they continue to patrol Mountain House. So Mountain House has its coverage. Excuse me. And but then if they get a call somewhere else in the 8 area, they run out and handle that call, and then they continue to patrol in the Mountain House area. So we're making sure that Mountain House still has the coverage it needs, and they still have their school resource officer out there. We'll have STARS units out there. We'll have cadets out there. So they have a lot of coverage out there still. They are saving the cost of those other 5 officers. They're not having to pay for that now, so that's a nice cost savings for them. But I heard they just hired security guards. I saw that on their Facebook page, and so those will be some more eyes and ears out there for them. And so Mountain House will still be safe and secure until we're able to get through this crisis, and the Board of Supervisors decide what type of contract they're going to offer the sheriff deputies, and hopefully that'll be enough for us to attract new officers and retain the ones we have, because our numbers are just bleeding. We just went through our numbers again, and we found since 2016, and this was just shocking to me, just since 2016, the last 2.5 years, we have hired 61 officers, and we have lost 70 officers.
Wow.
So It's a very dramatic number. Of those 70 officers, some of those were retirements. 21 of them went to other agencies. For
Lateral
more,
transfer.
Yeah, for more pay. So what's impactful about that, and you mentioned this yesterday, is that, to get an officer up and ready on the street is not like a regular company that hires somebody. It takes the best case scenario. If we have absolutely nothing go wrong, it takes about 13 months to get an officer through an academy, through a training program, up and ready, so that he can get a set of keys and go out and drive around by himself and handle calls for service. 13 months. In that time, it costs us the taxpayers, about $310,000 per officer. So we've lost 21 of those officers to other agencies. So that means that other agency did not have to pay that $310,000. They let us train the officers, get them up and ready to go, and then they go someplace else for higher pay. So that's what's really difficult about this, because that's taxpayers' money that we spend. So $310,000, I think was the number that we have spent to get this guy ready. So then he leaves. So now we have to hire another guy and spend another $310,000 of taxpayer money to get he or her up and ready to go out, and hopefully they don't leave again. So every time we lose one, it's like spending double that money to fill that spot. So,
and that doesn't include extra training like for SWAT, which
absolutely.
there's several different levels that you
Yes.
have to pay for.
We've lost 30% of our SWAT team. So you can only imagine how much training it takes to become an officer, and then to go through everything it takes in time to become a trained SWAT officer. It's just another tremendous amount of money. And we've lost 30% of our team to just another local agency here in our own county. So it's not like these officers and their families have to pick up and move to go make more money. They just have to go, what I'm saying, to the next exit down I-5 and go to work.
And they're making $1,000 to $2,000 more a month if they do a lateral transfer.
Absolutely.
It's shocking. And obviously when we have someone that comes right out of the academy, they're not going to have the same skill set that someone who's a seasoned officer that's been on our force for several years.
Absolutely. It's really going to take us a long time to backfill and get back up to the level where we were. And sometimes you say come out of the academy. Sometimes we're paying for them to go through the academy, and they get stolen while they're in the academy. CHP got one of our guys while they were in the academy. So, it's a difficult situation to be in, and I realize that it's difficult right now that there's only so much tax dollars to go around, and I want to emphasize that our guys aren't asking to be the highest paid in the county. We know that's not going to happen. We know there's different tax bases in these different cities, and some cities have more money than others to pay their employees. We understand that, but we just need to be competitive to make sure that, okay, I'm willing to stay here even though I'm not going to make as much money, because I enjoy working for this department, and I enjoy the opportunities that I have here and the people that I work with. Just get me close enough to where it's reasonable for my family that I stay here.
Well, in the last contract, your officers gave up the chance for a cost of living increase.
Yeah, what they do, and I know the county kind of balks it every time that's said, but what they did is they were in contract, and then the county went through, and everybody went through a very tough fiscal time back then. And so the deputy sheriffs and other bargaining units went to the county and said, hey, look, we know it's tough times right now. We're going to forego our raises right now. We'll push those back until times get better. And the county said, thank you so much, and we'll remember that you did that for us. And so a couple of years down the line, time got better, and they got some of that raise. I don't know if they got all of it. I'm not involved in the negotiations or anything like that. But so it was a nice gesture, and to now go 4.5 years without a contract, and you've got to remember these 4.5 years, most people get a cost of living raise at least, and the economy's been good, and I know that the cost of living raise was 2 to 3% each one of those years. So 4 years without that means the deputies have given up 8 to 12% raises by just not going with a raise. So the county has saved that money, didn't have to give them anything. They don't get retroactive. All that's gone. Now they're offering them a contract it's fairly complicated, but we have two tiers, they're called, of employees. Since this law was passed, PEPRA, the newer officers pay more into their retirement than the legacy officers. So tier 1 are the legacy officers, tier 2 are the newer officers, and so the newer officers pay more into their retirement. So the contract that they're being offered is a 6% raise over 3 years. So 2, 2, and 2, or however they want to frame it, 3, 1, and 1, or whatever. And so at the end of that, which means they will have gone 7.5 years, 4.5 without a raise, and then 3 with 2, 2, and 2. They would, the new tier 2 officers would get a 6% raise. That's it, after 7.5 years.
Wow.
And the legacy officers in that, which is about 122 of the officers, which is over half of our deputy sheriff staff, a majority of them would come out at the end with a loss of about, the number I was told was 0.09% less pay.
Wow.
And then some at the officers who have been around the most, which is about 15 to 18 officers, the numbers I've been given, would end up with a 5% raise because they get raises for longevity type thing because they've been around so long. And then some of the officers in the middle there would get a 0.19% raise is the number that I've been given, not even 1% over the 7.5 years.
And this is all in the face of several years where we've had increases in our budget every year. I know with this past budget, there was almost $41 million added.
Yeah, we all know the economy's been great lately. So our coffers here at the county have been, we've been building up that rainy day fund that they call it. Well, the rainy day fund is for a rainy day, and I tell you, it's raining right now. It's pouring because we're bleeding officers, and they're going to other departments. So I think it's time that we reach into that rainy day fund and start preserving the investment that the county has made in these people. We're just letting all that money walk out the door and having to spend it again. It just doesn't sound like good business to me. I think we need to reach into the rainy day fund and pay the officers a fair wage that will allow them to stay here and not have to go someplace else.
And it doesn't make good fiscal sense, but it also is disrespectful. We have a troop of people that put their lives on the line every single day for our safety.
Right. You know, since I came out and made this announcement and we started suspending some of our operations for officer safety and citizen safety reasons, we had another officer just put in their letter of resignation. It was one of our female officers, highly trained in our AgNet, our specialized unit, that is going, she's actually leaving the state, going someplace else to get better pay. And then I was notified that 2 more have put in over in the Bay Area. I think it's Antioch PD that they've put their applications in. So, and I already had a list of 25 men and women that were anticipating that they might go someplace else.
Wow. And we're down to 66. If we lose all of those people, how can we possibly maintain safety for our county?
Yesterday, when our officers were involved in the officer-involved shooting in the morning, and God blessed us that none of them were injured. Unfortunately, a bad guy lost his life. But the officers arrived on scene. It was somebody that was there violating a restraining order, came looking for the person that was being protected with a handgun, and our officers got there quick enough to protect her. Luckily, none of them were hurt, but just that one incident took us to priority dispatch, where we couldn't handle anything but emergency calls because we just didn't have enough units on the street to handle our routine calls for service.
That's scary. And if the officers hadn't been able to go to that call, that woman probably, she would have been injured and possibly killed.
Yeah, I mean, these are the type of things these are the calls we go to every day, and so we were just blessed that we happened to be close by. The officers arrived on scene just to stop him before he got in.
Do you think, and we'll see what you say to this, that the work in our county, how do you feel that it compares to other areas? Do you think it's harder? Do you think it's the same?
Well, we all know the reputation of San Joaquin County and Stockton throughout the nation and the world. It is a hotbed right now for activity. We've been working very closely with Chief Jones and his staff, who is doing a fantastic job. They have quashed that uptick they had in these gangs that were going at each other. We were able to work with them, with some of our units assigned with them, as well as CHP and other agencies. We all bound together to help out. But right now is a time when it appears it's very active, because we're in the summer months, which are always more active, and so compared to other counties, I think we are a what I would call a very active community as far as law enforcement, and it's very dangerous out there for our officers right now, and for our citizens, and so we need to be fully staffed and out there engaging, trying to prevent crime before it happens. And the biggest thing is, I know our DA is working hard on a lot of these programs to try and curb recidivism, and it's tough to do that when you don't have the bodies that we need to get out there and engage in the community. So it's difficult for us to be partners with the DA and with the police departments, and all the police departments have this problem. The way that we're going to combat this is to get involved and stop things before they happen. We can't show up afterwards. So, and that's about getting engaged in our schools and in our communities, and making sure that kids have alternatives to hanging out on the corner or joining gangs and slinging dope out on the street or whatever it is. And if we're just barely getting by handling our calls for service, we don't have time to do the really important work of trying to prevent crime before it happens, trying to prevent young men and women from going down that lifestyle in the first place, or trying to engage in the homeless problem. Some of the folks that I pulled were on our encampment response team, and we're still gonna, if the encampment response team wants to go out and do something, when they arrive on scene, if they feel threatened, they'll be able to call dispatch and say, hey, is the beat car available? And when we're available, as far as priority calls, we'll come over and be with them the best we can. So we're still going to try and do that, but this has really impacted this quality of life issue that this homeless problem has become, and I know that it really affects everyone in our community. So again, trying to be proactive and engage with the homeless, and trying to help those that want help, and try to convince those who don't want any of this help that this is not the place they want to be, is very, very hampered by the shortage of staff that I have.
And the encampment response team that you mentioned, I know that was started in May, and I think you've had 5 cleanups already, and it's been very successful.
Absolutely. It's a great program, and we definitely want to be part of it. But my job is to make sure that my officers get to go home to their families at night, and that you get to go to your family at night. And that starts with our staff on the street being able to respond to calls safely. And I had to make that hard choice and say, hey, look, we'll come and help on that as much as we can, when we can. But as you know, calls come in and they're evaluated by their priority. And when there's a crime in progress that's threatening somebody's safety, that's a priority call, and that's going to take priority over going in and walking around and making sure the encampment team is safe. So we want to be part of that as much as we can, and we will continue to do the best we can. And we get asked to get spread wide and go to all these different things. Well, when you have a limited amount of bodies, something has to give.
Yeah,
so
you can't do it. You can't be everywhere.
Yeah. So we start with the basic safety of life, and then we grow from there.
And what about the Delta and dumping on the Delta and homeless on the Delta?
Yeah, the Delta has become this area where the homeless is moving out into. We have some great people out there. That's our Delta Neighborhood Watch teams. One of the big advocates out there, Tracy Glaves, had reached out to me during the election and explained the problem to me. So we have really made an effort to get involved out there, and we've gotten some grants. My sergeant out there, Jose Aleman, has done a great job at getting us state and federal money to remove abandoned boats. And what the homeless are doing is they're finding these abandoned houseboats, and then they're just going out onto the water and living on them. Well, they're not having their tanks dumped by some service that's just going straight into the water, the sewage, and they're throwing garbage into the water. And so with our homeless camps along the edges of our levees, they're cutting into the side of the levees, which in the wintertime is going to weaken those levees and put our communities in danger. And so they don't have restrooms out there, so they just throw everything into the water. So it's something that we're really trying to address. Myself and my undersheriff were out on the Delta. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before. They all start to run together. But we were out on the boats, and the neighborhood watch out there took us around and showed us the key parts that they're concerned of, and we started to really engage with the folks that live out there and vacation out there on a regular basis. And so it's a top priority to us. But again, I only have 6 people assigned out there, and we have 700, 900 miles of waterway out there. So for 6 people, it takes a long time to get somewhere on a boat. So we're doing the best we can. Again, we would love to bump those numbers out and staff it more and really get involved. We've made some good progress, but it takes so long. You have to remember that somebody's houseboat, that's their house, just like here. So if you have a problem with a house in your neighborhood, you know how long it takes for all the county agencies to work on getting that fixed and cleaned up. It's the same thing out on the water, but probably compounded 10 times because there's so many other regulations out there that we have to deal with. So it's not like we can find an abandoned boat and just drag it over and pull it up on land. A tow truck takes it away because it's easy to remove an abandoned car, but there's no place to take an abandoned boat. Nobody wants them. So because they become toxic problems with the waste and the fuel and the oil and everything that's involved with the motors. So it's a huge problem. We have made some really good successes out there. There used to be that massive abandoned sailboat right along the main channel there by the country club for years and years and years. Well, we just got that one out of there.
Awesome.
We've got a long list of ones we're going to hit, and we're just picking them off one at a time.
Well, and you mentioned about some of the damage, and I know the E. coli in the water has been a concern. With the continuum of care, we had someone from Marin come and speak, and they estimate that for each homeless person on the street, that taxpayers are paying $60,000 a year. In our area, I actually think it's higher because of the number of fires that we are having and other issues, including people going to county hospital and things like that. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing how much it impacts all of us at every level, like the fire department and EMS and just the quality of life of our citizens. And so we're trying to do the best we can. We are really restricted by some of the laws that have been passed here in California as far as how we can react to this. And this is a common line, but being homeless is not a crime, and no one has ever been arrested or cited for being homeless. But we will enforce the laws and county ordinances as we can and as aggressively as we can. And then it goes to our DA. And once again, you talk about people who are impacted. They only have a limited budget too. And so it's very expensive to prosecute people. So there are choices that have to be made there. Are we going to save the money on prosecutions to prosecute people who are doing robberies and thefts and murders and things like that? Or, do we put somebody who was sleeping on the sidewalk or defecating someplace in front of a business in the county jail for 10 days or 30 days or whatever, put them all through the court process and the expense involved in that. And so that's why, a lot of the supervisors are trying to find those alternatives, looking for some type of group area where the homeless, we can get them services and places to stay and things like that. So
get them off the street.
yeah, it's a very complex problem that the entire nation is dealing with. It just affects us more because our weather's so nice out here. So not a lot of homeless people hanging around in Alaska, or in Michigan, I would imagine. So where the weather's nicer, it's safer for them to come and stay. So it's a difficult situation. We're all aware of it. We're doing the best we can, and we do want you to contact us, and the only way we're going to be able to work on it is if we know it's happening and we know it's affecting your quality of life. So please, we say this for everything. If you see something, say something, give us a call, let us know, and we're gonna attack it the best we can. All I can ask is that please be patient. You can see all the challenges that we're going through now. It's not because we don't care about it. It's not because we're lazy and don't want to do our jobs. At my department, we're just extremely thin right now, and we're trying to prioritize these things, and we're trying to get to everything that we can.
And earlier you mentioned stars. For our viewers and listeners that don't know what that is, let's talk about that, and let's talk about how we can get more people to be stars.
Absolutely. We have this great program that was started under Sheriff Baxter Dunn years ago, that seniors of the age of 50 years or older can volunteer their time and come out, and we give them training, and they get a uniform that's different from ours, so that people don't think they're cops and want to hurt them. And they go out and they engage with the community. We give them a vehicle, and we assign them an area, and they go out, and there are eyes and ears out there, and they're at our special events, and they're helping us right now. I'm so shorthanded, I had to remove my own deputy out of the lobby of our building, which I had just instituted a month or two ago for the security of our own building. So now Stars is sitting out there for us, and I sit right up above him in my office with my gun on and ready to run down there and help them if I need to. But there's so many different things that they can do. One of the things I want to start doing once we get our numbers up, if we could get a lot more volunteers, is kind of a home alone program where people could call. Like I have a mom that's 84 at home, and it would be nice that if somebody could come by and check on them, and that's what I'd like our STARS folks to do, where somebody could call and kind of register their loved ones and say, hey, could you go by once or twice a week and just knock on the door and check on them, make sure they're okay, and so we're going to call that home alone, but can't do that until we get our numbers up. So.
And they do vacation home checks too?
Absolutely. We do that right now. You can call in if you're going on vacation. Let us know at our dispatch, and we'll put it on our list, and they can come by and check and make sure everything's okay. And if something looks funny, then we'll have a number that you've given us that we can call a family member or a friend to come over and make sure everything's okay. And our officers can respond if there's any problems. So they do so much good out there.
Awesome. And if one of our viewers or listeners is interested in becoming a star, how do they do that?
Absolutely. Again, you just call our number 468-4400, and one of the prompts on our recording there will be the STARS coordinator, with his Jennifer Gibson, and they'll get you to her, and she'll run you through the process of how you do it. Again, it's you go through the background and everything like that, because you get to be around our department just like other officers. So we have laws that say that you got to go through the background and make sure that you're okay to be around all the sensitive stuff.
Awesome. And anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
No, I just want the people to know that, hey, our officers in custody and out on the streets are out there working as hard as they possibly can for you. Times are difficult right now as far as financial times with our officers, but We're going to continue to work as hard as we need to. If we continue to lose officers, I'm going to do whatever it takes to, if that means pulling officers from detectives or wherever it is, to make sure that we're able to get there and make you safe. So please be patient if it's a property crime or something like that. It may take us a little longer to get there right now, but we're working as hard as we can, and we're always going to be there to keep you safe.
And I wanted to give a shout out to Matt Lindsay, who I serve on the board of United Way. He did a great presentation at the Woodbridge-Acampo MAC meeting with several other deputies talking about this issue.
Absolutely. I am surrounded by the best staff. It's absolutely amazing. I'm constantly in awe. You might have heard me at the meeting that I said I'm going to turn it over to the brains of the organization, because Matt is very intelligent and thoughtful, and just a fantastic officer. He was also a member of our SWAT team, and just a fantastic guy. And I have my whole crew is like that, my captains and my lieutenants and my sergeants, and I am just blessed to be surrounded by good people who pick up my shortcomings and when I don't know something and fill me in, and we just work really, really well together. We know that the more minds you get involved in something, the better the solution's going to be.
Awesome. And I want to thank you for being here today. I think the information that you're giving is really important for our community to know. And thank you for what you do on a daily basis. And please thank all of the officers for putting their lives on the line for our safety.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And with that, I'm going to sign off.